So this is another big step inside of you to realize that you have these modes going through you all the time and that you can control them. And when you start to control them, you begin to become equanimous. Right? Like Krishna mentions it 6 or 7 times in the Gita, stiti pragnasya. Arjuna asks him, what does a man of steady wisdom look like? And he says, oh, that's stiti pragnasya. Stiti means steady, you see, in one state, and pragnasya means wisdom in the language of the Gita. So basically, find these people that have reached that state, like I found our founder. I found our founder, and he had found that state, which is called eternal enlightenment or sleepless state. Insomnia of yoga, he called it. So that peace of mind never deserts them, and it never betrays them. They always go there, you might say, but going there means you're still trying to test it out. If you just remain there, and then everything else in life is dictated by this pure sattva, then that's the way you see a seer in this world, unaffected by anything, unaffected by wars, unaffected by genocide, unaffected by some unusual soul getting into the presidency. You grant it all unto Caesar's and you take unto yourself what is the Lord's. And Jesus had to practice that in very terse and tense circumstances and convince others about that. See that we're being persecuted. So this steadiness of mind is the penultimate best state you can achieve. Better than the moods of devotion and so forth. If you have this Dixni Pragnasya according to Sri Krishna, then you can enjoy all other moods without ever changing your position from your indivisible Atman. See? This is how a yogi would get more enjoyment out of his food, how he would get more, squeeze more juice out of his orange, as Vivekananda said. Even as a monk, could go about the world and be elated by all its beauty without ever becoming seduced by it. Because there are beings who are seduced by the beauty of nature, and there are beings who are just elated to see it. Because didn't we just say it's Mother's manifestation, right? You're seeing Mother in everything. It's like seeing Brahman in everything. Only, you might say about Mother, if you see Mother in everything, you've got that accompanied by these beautiful forms that you don't find in Brahman. So elation and bliss might be slightly different, you see, in that regard. So in the case of tamas and rajas, we know that we're going to have to do we have some serious work to do, and some powerful transcendence to practice, and some renunciation to initiate. But when it comes to Prakasha Shakti, we welcome her. You see, Swagatam, please come this way, Prakasha Shakti, and deliver to us this evenness of mind, this balance of every aspect of the world, senses, elements, ego. It tends to balance all of that out into one very similar kind of state of Brahman. I mean, it almost looks like Brahman when you're in this state of pure sattva. I don't think I read this quote that I put together for the three gunas in last week's class, so let's start with that. Maya is an insentient force that, though invested with inherent powers of obscuration and distortion, nevertheless is present to drive beings towards remembrance and enlightenment. The tantric adepts state that she covers our eyes with one hand, but leads us towards freedom with the other. This directive power is Prakasha Shakti. Prakasha is the revelatory light. Prakashaka is its revealer, and Prakashya is the thing revealed. So there again is the appearance of a triputi. The light itself that reveals, the one who reveals it, and the thing that's getting revealed. But that would, in this case, be your own Atman. You'll need this light to shine into that darkness of the mind, intellect, and ego in order to show up the presence of the Atman there as a substratum behind them all. And that's what most people are missing. Even great intellects are missing that. If they've managed to develop a powerful intellect and escape the inflated ego, like, say, Einstein and others did, then they turn into devotees of God, you see. And they still believe in God. Or like a great philosopher, like Meister Eckhart. He sees his oneness with the Christ, his oneness with the Almighty Father, and tried to teach it in a way that was from a humble platform. So if you can work with the elements of the mind, which are basically manas, dual mind, and chitta, its thoughts, and ahamkara, the ego, and buddhi, the intelligence, or the intellect might be better said, then you can mature each one of these. And then you'll have this balance of Prakasha Shakti coming forward in it. You'll see that was the ground for the mind all the time. That's called original mind. OM, we like to say, original mind. And you'll be then, you'll have availability of Mother Kali and her great word. It's her great word. For instance, out of Lex Hickson's own book on the subject, Mother Kali, that is Tantric Hymns of Enlightenment, Mother of the Universe. He took these songs of India and put them into beautiful English mantras. Then he says in one song, emerging into her thousand-petaled reality, O meditator, become the goddess consciously. She is your essence, you her expression. Now cast your burning glance of compassion upon all beings in creation. You are the primal sound that pervades all phenomena. Is that what I just said? This Om, this word comes forth as a vibration behind everything. With the appearance of Prakasha Shakti, all of a sudden you will have this awareness of a much subtler vibration than what you hear here with the ears. No man has heard God with these ears, you could just as well, or as easily say. See? But when you start to hear that primal sound, that sound of silence, you might call it, then all of a sudden you'll be meeting Mother Kali almost face to face at that point. You are the primal sound that pervades all phenomena, you the pearl of clear light beyond all worlds. So those kinds of philosophical insights are part of that tradition of India. And this is a Bengali song. So in Bengal, they happen to put that into very deep, profound expression, and took an enlightened American to go there and find these songs and to come and put it in such a powerful form in English. He was a master of English. So there we have, 70, 80 of those poems in English for us now. Any line out of one of those or a paragraph would be a day's contemplation. And if you made that day's contemplation, or even an hour of the day, in a sattvic state with Prakasha Shakti on hand, these would not just be words you're hearing or listening to. And these would be initiators of enlightenment in you. These would act as awakeners. And you would experience the yoga of insomnia. You couldn't get it out of your mind anymore. So you'd walk around like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, or like Swami Vivekananda with his eyes all looking upward, inward. See, you'd have to say, well, months pass and I haven't even combed my hair. See, not that he had any hair, but when he came to West, he grew out his hair some. That's a Chinese poet that said that. Months passed and I haven't even combed my hair. So he's sitting in this state of realization. that he got out of this Prakasha Shakti, and the Chinese man might not have called it that. He had another word for it. But it was that Prakasha Shakti nonetheless coming forward and negating the effects of tamas, avarana, and rajas, vikshepa. Father of Yoga used that word too, vikshepa, means distracted mind. It's one of 5 kinds of mind. 2 of them you'd like, and 3 you'd want to get rid of. That's 2 and 3. That is, you want to get rid of the unhealthy mind, the distracted mind, the restless mind, the sick mind, and so forth. And you'd want to get rid of the mind that's dull and slothful and won't awaken. And you want to get rid of the mind that's inadvertent. It can't decide whether to stay peaceful or whether to be active. It needs to stay supremely peaceful and then do all its actions in that peace, but it goes back and forth between a sort of pseudo state of peace and then action with a desire for its rewards. See? So it's always suffering the effects. These are coming back at it as its life. But the 2 kinds of minds you're going to want is ekagra. If thine eye be single, you shall know the truth. I think Christ was talking about ekagra state of mind. Because beyond the single point is the sahasrara. See, this is what we just chanted. We just chanted, as it were, or said here in the very first line, if you remember. Emerging into her 1,000-petaled reality, O meditator, become the goddess. So the 1,000-petaled reality would be beyond this 2-petaled third eye. So they call it inwardly speaking, and in that kind of inward vision, you would see these petals. You would see these realms. These are lands, these petals. States of awareness that are like the kingdoms of heaven within, but they get very, very subtle and eventually get causal. And you leave the body and the senses when you see them. That's why beings are sitting there without any outer awareness, like even Jesus in the forest, birds pecking seeds out of his hair because he sat there so long. It's just like Buddha 550 years earlier sitting under the bo tree for several weeks and having his vision of nirvana. So this is the 1,000-petaled state. But back to the 2-petaled state there, then you would have this, if thine eye be single, you shall know the truth kind of level of consciousness. Very powerful. But there's still an observer there. You see, if it goes any higher, the observer disappears. The triputis go away, and the dualities, of course, have been long gone. And 2 gives way to 3, and then 3 gives way to 1. The key turns the opposite way. Well, we looked at the power, and I did finish this quote. So we used an analogy in that quote of Maya covering the eyes of beings with one hand and then leading them on with the other. Well, the seers are the beings that want to just tear this eye away, or at least maybe just tip the finger a little bit so they can look as Mother takes them, and so they can see the various states of consciousness that are going by as she leads them through Maya. They want to get the full view, or as another song in India says, I want to become infinitely wealthy with all the lands that the Divine Mother presides over, all territories. I want everything that she has for myself. This is the greedy truth seeker, using greed in its best possible way. Like a monk went to Sri Ramakrishna once and said, how do I get rid of lust? And he said, get rid of it, increase it. The monk was surprised and asked for an explanation. And he said, increase it and turn it towards God. Lust after God. Why are you lusting after these things? The 5 elements, and death, and things that die and decay, and possessions that betray you in the end, get stolen, bore you to tears in the end, you see, or too much food that destroys your organs and sends you to a premature grave. I mean, we can go on and on listing all the reasons why you shouldn't get attached to things, and you should just turn that focus within. So there's another beautiful illustration or analogy that Sri Ramakrishna uses about Maya, and he said it's like the skin of a mango. The skin of the mango is there, protects the mango while it ripens. So we could say then, in a positive way, that Maya is there to protect us while we are developing our inner knowledge to transcend it. If you strip that skin away too early, the fruit's no good, you see. It's not sweet, not ripe, not palatable. But if you wait till the mango ripens and then strip the skin away, then you've got this ripe fruit, you see, to offer to her, Mother Kali. You see, perfect fruit to offer to her. And the skin she'll throw away just like you will. See, the skin is the ego. In fact, if you eat that skin, I'm told, I've never tried this myself, but you get a rash. In fact, if you eat too many mangoes, you get a rash, because part of the element that's in the skin is in the mango flesh too. So you don't want to eat too many, and of course that means you're going to have to be a really advanced renunciate to give up mangoes. That's like a high level, you see, of having to renounce things, to give up Hawaiian mangoes in the right season. You have to practice some strong detachment. I've had one, that's enough. But the point here is that skin of the mango is not edible, and it's actually dangerous to imbibe. So that's another thing about Maya. You know, you just bear with it. Maybe change that into Mahamaya. You see, translate Maya into Mahamaya. See who's behind the whole operation. And when you see her, then you'll see that she'll tell you, why are you lingering there? Come out. Now that you've seen me, come out. You don't need to be there anymore in the form. Have the formless experience. Here, I'll vouchsafe it to you. And isn't it like Holy Mother saying, birth and death are very painful, you never want to experience them again. Now, it might sound to people like we're a cult that wants to get you out of the body, so, you know, there have been strange oddities like that occurring, but the thing is that we're saying you get beyond birth and death means you get beyond birth and death in ignorance. You see, you can come back as a messenger of Mother in her Prakasha Shakti form. Have you ever seen a living soul that teaches you this way? Or do they come back as a revelatory power? Isn't the Guru a power of Mother, a revelatory power himself or herself? They will reveal things to you. That's the only reason they're here. So in that way, Prakasha Shakti is active in those beings. In fact, if you go on to that poem I was just reading, there's lines about that, how the Guru is just simply a manifestation of the Mother. So Prakasha Shakti is there in them, so they've been reborn then without being born. That's the sort of dichotomous hippopotamus teaching that you have to entertain in Vedanta, in non-duality, is that you can be born without being born. The difference is, and another song in India explains it well, no more birth in the womb of matter for me, only emanation from my Divine Mother. So here you have on one hand, birth in the womb of matter, no more, he says. So he's seen through that, he's met Mother Kali, and she's taken him into the realm of emanation. See? So now I'm an emanation of Mother, like a ray from a sun. Touches the earth, comes back at nightfall, knows its source and returns there. See? And if the clouds cover the earth, it hits the clouds and just retracts, you see, unaffected. Waits for a chance to penetrate. So these great souls are like that. They're armed with Shakti power, awakened Shakti power. By the way, that's called Kundalini. If there are any goddesses that are mostly aligned or mainly aligned with Kundalini, that would be Kali and Durga. They're specifically known for working on the level of transformation of mind. There are other goddesses that are, you might even say, work on dualistic levels. Remember the chart we entertained the last couple? There were 4 aspects of Kali, right? Kalatma and Varnamayi, which she worked through alphabets and words and so forth. Vedamayi. So these are different aspects of that Shakti coming through. So we're following that vein, trying to trace Mother Shakti, Mahamaya, Mahashakti, through this whole process of our lifetimes. And in this lifetime, introducing ourselves more and more to her through these various avenues that she makes available to us through our teachers, through our teachings, through the scriptures, through the Dharma, through our practice, through our morality, through our ethics, and through intellectualism too. She likes all of those things, but she doesn't like the ego involved in those things. Ego with intellect, you see, ego with practice. That's what she's trying to skim off, you see, filter out of you. Because you're going to have to make a 100% surrender to her when you see her, or she'll turn her back and walk away, as it were. And that's happened enough to many people. Oh, can't I just keep a... No! Well, shall I? I'm gone. I'm out of here. See? You're not ready. So this is why we open up the heart 100%. And the mind should be in a fine condition too. The heart and mind really to her are one thing. So that's a nice word for that in Sanskrit. Medha Kendra. Medha is intelligence, Kendra is the heart, the level of the heart. So you bring these two together. You might say that almost translates into the middle of wisdom. See, she likes wisdom. Well, let's look at we looked at Avarana and Vikshepa and what it really translates into. One veils and one distorts, basically. But Prakasha clarifies the mind by revealing the actual nature of things. And this is a no punches pulled revelatory power. If she gets into you and she focuses you on the object, then you're going to see flat out that the object is just empty. Flat out. There will be no more chance of coveting it or possessing it or enjoying it. See? Because you'll just give it up. You'll see it's empty. You see, without Prakasha Shakti and quantum physics in the minds of the physicists, then they're going to look at the object and see it's made of particles and not get the point that it has to be renounced. Why? Because you renounce, O mind, be the sense flowers of this earth, so you can drink the nectar of Mother's lotus feet. There are states inside, from the kingdoms of heaven all the way back to Mother Kali herself, who presides over these kingdoms of heaven, that are full of peace and bliss and love and light, compassion, and all the things that you find in short supply here on earth. You see, high demand but short supply, isn't it? Those things you're looking for in people, in places, in things. So when you see a thing, an object, you're going to, with Prakasha Shakti in charge of your ego, then you're going to back off from it. So you're seeing the actual nature of the thing, so hands off, you see, and all of a sudden you feel much more peaceful immediately, you see. Oh, why didn't I think of this before? Thank you, Mother, you see. She's taking charge at that point. You're like a bunch of popsicle sticks strewn together with strings, you see, hung on a cord, you see. You can make it dance, you see. That's how Ramakrishna described himself. I don't know if they had popsicle sticks back then, but sticks anyway. But because when we were kids, we did play with those and glue. And see. Little did we know what we were playing with, the meaning of what we were playing with. You see, we all play these games, but we don't see the meaning of them. Even Monopoly has a meaning, you see. Do not pass go and do not collect $200 and so forth. Lose your hotels off of Broadway and Park Place, you see. And it's all make-believe, but this is also going on in a less make-believe level, at the level of corporate business. Like I still do, I think, have a student who was a stockbroker. Haven't seen him for a while. We'd see him one day, 1 month, at visit San Francisco. He's smiling, you see, driving a BMW. Oh, I made, $25,000 today alone. See, and then a couple months later, get in the car with him, his BMW. Prakasha Shakti had deserted him, you see, for some reason. See, and he was in a more Avarana Shakti state. And he said, "What's the matter?" He said, "Well, I just lost $50,000 today." See, I said, "But this is why I'm here, see, to tell you that it doesn't matter. You're putting too much faith in the world of changes. See, aren't you the changeless Atman? Let's go back to Lord Shiva, who you love. See, you love Lord Shiva. Let's see if Lord Shiva gets all bent out of shape if the stock market changes, or if the banks go bankrupt, or if he doesn't have any money in his pocket. Not that he has pockets. He wears a deerskin with no pockets, doesn't he? And he lives in a cave without any possessions. So let's see what he says about this predicament." That's why people, even Hindus, you see, rich Hindus came to Sri Ramakrishna and saw that he didn't have a thing. He didn't own a thing, and he only had a cloth. And his food was provided by the Kali temple, the priest, because he was a priest there for a while. And nothing, and they saw him just so contented and actually blissful in that nothingness. And they couldn't figure that out, you see. So if Hindus with samskaras for this kind of soul in their country for millennia cannot figure him out, then how are we going to figure him out here in the West when America and Europe doesn't have very many of those kinds of souls? They may have a few saints produced, but where are the seers? And further, where are the illumined souls who actually wrote scriptures? You have to go to religion for that, you see. And if you go to philosophy without religion, then you end up pontificating about philosophy, and that turns into an argument, that turns into debate, and then pretty soon you're making money on philosophy. It was never intended for that. In India, religion and philosophy were never sundered from one another. They checked each other. It's just a beautiful thing about Mother India. One kept the other from being too sentimental, and that one kept the other one from becoming too dry. Because sentimentality and dryness were the problems of religion and philosophy, you see. They're here in the world, so they're going to suffer like everything else. But if you keep them at a high level, what's that high level mean? Keep Prakasha Shakti in the mix. See? Go around with her as your partner. She's your companion, invisible companion. Sri Ramakrishna always used to say that, we. He would say we. And sometimes he'd say, I don't know. There's two of us here. I have to consult the other. See? I think he was the classic split personality if you were a Western psychologist. But you didn't know that he had Mother Kali in tow. See? Or probably the other way around. She had him in tow. But he consciously had accepted her as his ideal, and this isn't like a four-armed goddess that you're going to see wandering around, although he saw her that way at times in his visions. You'll see different things in vision than you will out here, right? This is waking vision. You don't see fantastic things very often. And some of the fantastic things you see here, you don't like. What? He got into office? See? But inside, there's, especially if Prakasha Shakti is there, then these kings of heaven are filled with light, filled with beauty. People come out of sleep smiling, and they go about their days even-minded. And they're just waiting for their body to die. I once had a conversation with Dalai Lama where he said, in Tibet, we're actually looking forward to the time of our death. That's a quote from him that I heard. And that was on stage in the Honolulu Shell, Waikiki Shell, when I was playing for his talk, playing music before he talked. They asked me to do that. So, yes, we look forward to the time of our death. Sort of like Chief, was it Joseph or who, one of the chiefs, Indian chiefs, it's a good day to die, Sitting Bull or someone, you see. So there's no attachment to these objects, whether they be apparently insentient or supposedly sentient. Body, supposedly sentient. But when you take everything out of it, it's not sentient at all. Take the blood out of it, dies. Take the energy away from it, it expires. Take the breath away from it, it expires. But if you take the Prakasha Shakti away from it, it lives in hell. And sometimes it'll even call that hell heaven or life. This is my life. Devoid of anything that is of higher value. All based on demeaning, low attainments and acquirements that mean nothing in the end. And probably aren't that meaningful even when you possess them. They're just problematic. So, the actual nature of things, you see, Prakasha Shakti, you could go on talking about how she reveals this to souls. Why is it that some souls wake up, even in any given lifetime, they are not attached to objects and property and even people? Not just monks I'm talking about, but others too I've seen. Children, young men and women, you see. Maybe you say in the case of children, they haven't had a chance yet to be taught poorly by their parents. You see, to follow their parents into this insane world of attachment to possessions. But in the case of people who have grown more in their 20s and 30s and so forth, they actually don't have really any problem with objects, any attachment to them. They're not looking for that. They're looking for something deeper. They're not attached, say, to food. Well, I can live on very little, thank you. Where they lay their heads, not that important to them. Give me a cot back there in the corner. That's what I slept on when I was a boy. Cot in the corner of an attic. I did fine. The second point is that it's related to the gunas of sattva and leads beyond it as well. The guna of sattva. So Prakasha Shakti, he's making the direct correlation to sattva. That's why we need to do this. The veiling power, the distorting power, and the revelatory power. All right? English. Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva connected. So that the Sanskrit won't befuddle you if you hear it. And the word guna won't put you off anymore. They'll just say, oh, this is something that gets veiled, something that gets distorted, and then something that's actually wide open for me to have faith in and believe in. See? I mean, in nature you can see it. There's scum over the lake. You see, that's obscuration. Then you move it away, and for a while there's a combination of, water and green scum, and then your reflection's wavering. But wait a while, and then everything is pure and pristine. You see, so that's in one movement. In like 30 seconds, you see the power of these three Shaktis working in nature. Not as a conscious principle there, see, but the correlation is to be made. See. You can then go deeper with it and find out why you wake up one day depressed and the next day you're very active. See. But don't get any fulfillment out of your actions. And another day you just feel like staying home and meditating, hopefully. So measure the gunas of your mind. The other parts of the teaching of this chart, well, there is the rope and the snake, because that's a famous Vedantic saying. Raju Sarpanyaya, I think, is the Sanskrit for that. Espying a snake one evening in the semi-darkness, a man reacted in abject fear. Upon closer inspection, he saw the illusory snake was really a rope. Similarly, a man sees the universe where only Brahman exists. The power of obscuration, avarana, causes his mind to cover reality with the world. The power of distortion, vikshepa, makes him perceive the world as distinct from Brahman. But the penetrating power of prakasha reveals all such superimpositions and projections to be unreal. There are other beautiful teachings on the gunas and ways of putting it, but this is the one I thought of to condense it down into just one little couple sentences there, to bring the point home. Then you can go on philosophizing and say, well, if you never knew what a snake was, then, what's the rope to you, and vice versa. And you can have all sorts of clever goes at this teaching of Raju Sarpanyaya, but basically this is pretty much it. Either the Brahman doesn't exist to you and the world is only the only existence, and you're just a materialist, a sensualist, maybe a hedonist, or just clueless, a cluelessness. Or you see the two as distinct from one another. So you haven't brought them together yet. So that's distortion. You don't see that it's all one reality. It's not till Prakasha comes along and suggests that to you that you go, you see, here's non-duality coming to visit you, and you're meeting Mother Kali at that point. Shake her hand. You might have trouble just trying to discern which of her four hands to shake, but you ought to grab one of them. Or, like I said, maybe her feet. Just follow her feet. I didn't want to take up the whole first half of this fourth class on this chart, but you can see how it's a beautiful study, and we ought to become aware of Prakasha Shakti, because whether you look at it as Avarana, Vikshepa, and Prakasha, or you look at it as Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva, if you want the shorter words, then Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva, people want to know what Sattva is. It's like, I don't see any grounds for it. I'm either inactive or I'm restless, see, and I'm either sleeping or I'm waking. I'm either working or I'm at home watching TV. I mean, there are various forms of activity and inactivity that form people's lives. But very few people all of a sudden say, well, what's that beautiful state of mind I get into? See, that actually makes being still and being active both enjoyable. That's sattva. And why is it so evasive? Why is sattva so evasive? Why can't I remain steady all the time? Why am I always pulled this way and that way? See, by the trinkets and Tinseltown of the world, see, and its various attractions. So keeping sattva is a very important thing. And this teaching will help you do it. So let's go on and look at a little bit of Shakti's imports before the break here. This is a chart, Tantra, Shiva, and Shakti. I mean, probably when you look into Shakti and want to meet Mother Kali, then she'll want you to meet her husband, at least at some point, or know about him. And so there you would know about Shiva, her counterpart. And so there are beautiful things about Shiva to consider here, but let's consider Shakti since we'll stay on point there. She is, according to this chart, the form of Shiva. That's, and like Sri Ramakrishna says, Tantra says, worship of Shakti is the stepping stone to both the destruction of ignorance and the attainment of freedom. So he would often say that, you want to awaken Mother Kali. In the form of Kundalini, or no spiritual progress can really be made. So the teaching is that Shiva lives here in the Sahasrara, and Shakti is, in her potent form, is stored at the base of the spine. And this isn't to lower Shakti below Shiva's status. It's basically that she's lodged herself there so that she can rise, she can uncoil herself to the person who awakens to her. Talk about snake in a rope. This is like snake in a chakra, you see, and coiled up in this case. And when you do certain exercises like sitting straight and posture and breathing and pure food, those three things I'd say would be the basic fundamental things that Tantra would want you to practice. I mean, this is a much higher Hatha Yoga teaching than Hatha Yoga itself puts forth to you. When you take Hatha Yoga into Tantra, then Tantra puts it all in the right order, in the right place. So it's going to be sacred food, and taking it with a even state of mind, and then that energy that comes up isn't going to betray you or belie you later. See. And you'll bring that energy up by your breathing and by your posture and so forth. All of those things will come together, just like father of yoga put the 8-limb system, very much like that. Only he called this power Chit Shakti. You don't really become aware of her until she appears in your thoughts. But in Tantra, they start you out being aware of her. She's lodged down there. She's coiled up. So the teachers will ask you, have you unfurled your sail yet, or have you straightened your coil? They want to know if you know about her. You've seen her rise to any of these 7 levels. So we could probably look more at this later. I don't know if live streaming audience doesn't have this chart available on the screen, but as long as we've broached the subject with this first point, we can look at these chakras. Because see, one of the points down here you see is Shakti and her worship accomplishes the full involution of the embodied soul back to the source by withdrawing the Atman from its many associations with her Maya creation. So, as it were, your Atman is here in everything, of course, and through the body-mind mechanism is associating with things. That's okay. Nobody has a problem with that. But if it's identifying with those things, that's the danger. To Patanjali, to Vedavyas, to Vashishta, go on listing all the seers that don't want you to, that give you the teaching of non-attachment, but leave you all right in the realm of association, because the Atman will associate with the 5 sheaths. And Mother has no problem with that either. She winks at you. That's in a song. She winked, you see, and told me to go out, down, that is, out, down, the chakras to this realm of earth, which is the first 3. She said, but just don't forget where you came from. See, always remember your mother. Sounds like what Holy Mother said to us, right? When she was in the body. Always remember you have a mother. So you keep that in mind first and foremost. Now, in the next point, invoking Shakti awakens Kundalini power lying dormant in all living beings. That's this 4th point. We skipped number 2. We're going to the Kundalini ones that are particularly about these chakras. So you worship her, you invoke her, you propitiate her in ritual and in meditation and in breathing even. See, she's doing everything. If you're doing the pranayama, it's her doing the pranayama. See, she's doing the breathing. I often have that feeling when I'm falling asleep or at night and so forth, going into the deeper state of dreaming in deep sleep, is that I feel like she's all of a sudden taking over my lungs. She's the one that's breathing through me. And I hear 2 people breathing sometimes. Kind of scary and different, you see. But I'll breathe in, and there'll be another breath that goes on beyond my breath, and then I'll breathe out, and there'll be another breath that goes beyond my out-breath. Who's that? Trying to make me breathe deeper, Mother? But it's time to stop breathing and go into deep sleep. Kumbhaka. But whatever the case may be, she'll take over these dynamic processes in you, right on down to walking and eating. Because remember, you started out with pure food, right? So how are you going to decide what's pure food and what's impure food? That's going to be through Mother Intelligence. She'll let you know. If it takes you longer to get in touch with Mother Intelligence about that matter, then you'll suffer more poisoning of the bloodstream than others. But as soon as you wake up to the right way to eat, and true with the right way to move and speak and think, then you'll suffer less with these potential problems that are there in life and embodiment. Well, with that mention of invoking Shakti as Kundalini power, as she lies dormant here, see. So let me call up this chart on my screen, and we can go through these. We haven't looked at this chart. It's the T5. Sounds like a chiropractic checkup, doesn't it? But it's Tantra 5. It's the 5th chart I ever created of the 50 or so charts I've made out of the tantric system. And so we haven't gone through it very recently. It's be good to look at it again. So here's the Muladhara. You have the Sanskrit for it. And this is Kundalini system has mapped this out for you. And this is really all coming from Mother Kali, Shakti, Kundalini. Like I say, Kali and Durga are specifically aligned with and interested in or identified with Kundalini power. I mean, Saraswati, Lakshmi, yes, but you find them more as Vedic goddesses, following a little bit different sets of methods, you see, although they do enter into some of the Tantra teachings, like, say, in the case of Varnamai, that was an aspect of Saraswati coming into the Kundalini fold. So it is borrowed, and she does flow, no doubt about that, between these systems, yoga included, Chit Shakti. In Buddhism, she's Pragyaparamita. She's Mother Mary in Christianity and so forth, and Fatima in Islam. So basically you find this mother power introducing herself in all ways and means and methods. But at the Muladhara here, specifically, you'll see this is having to do with earth and Brahma, Lord Brahma, the first of the Trinity. At the very base of the spine, don't think of this as a physical location, mainly. Think of it as a subtle dimension that we correlate with the base of the spine. And otherwise you run this great risk, and many beings have, of teaching the Kundalini system in the wrong way. They're thinking basically that the physical spine is it, and they're looking for effects in it and things to do to it. Like, say, my spine's misaligned, so I'll go to a chiropractor, as we just said. But gee, my Kundalini didn't awaken. I'm all straight now. So obviously she's probably not in the physical spine. In the physical spine, you have marrow, right? You have nerves. That would be closer to her. But inside the nerves, there are 100,000 other subtle nerves. That would get as close as you can to her, you see. So you're going to have to shift dimensions, not bones. Not bones piled on top of one another. Or vertebrates, you see, and connecting places. It's going to have to connect inside, not just up the vertebrates in a physical sense. So just a word about that so we're clear. And here you have 4 letters, 4 sounds, and 4 prana shaktis. So much like that system we looked at last week, there are shaktis. 4 here, 6 here, 10 here, 12 here, 16 here, 2 here, and 1,000. Or you might call her 1 there, the Parashakti, who's associated with each of these levels of awareness. And so if we correlate them wisely with the spine, we'll find that if we rise up, Svadhisthana is next, and that's the generative organs where you have water and Varuna, the god Varuna. And so you see that there are other systems like this, say in Tantric Buddhism too, where you correlate the elements with the spine, but also with the passion at each level. So if very root of the spine is probably the grossest to them would be jealousy. Selfish grasping and jealousy, that's for Buddhism, that's like the worst. It's worse than lust. Lust actually has some redeeming qualities, but that doesn't have any, as it were, you see. So you get down there to that level of jealousy and greed. That's the worst, you see. So that would be how you would associate in that particular type of meditation. And at the very bottom is earth. So you're going to take this power of earth, which is a wind of earth, they call it, like Vayu, you see. And you're going to want to blow it against, use it to purify the power of the passion of greed that's associated with the earth. Earth and greed. Works, doesn't it? People are greedy for what around here? Land, food, cattle, things of earth. Human beings are of earth too, unfortunately. They think they are anyway. If you move, okay, so 6 letters, 6 sounds, 6 prana shaktis. This chart does not go into those in depth, just as a note. Manipura, fire, burning there in the solar plexus center, they call it sometimes. It's probably better than calling it gut or stomach, you see. But solar plexus right there. That's fire, that's Agni, god of Agni burning there. And I'd say there's probably more to say about that center in Kundalini system than any of the rest. In this day and age, we need to know about this center because this is where transmigration is going on. That's most pertinent to us. That is escaping the realm of our ancestors. That's escaping rebirth. There's still, if your consciousness is still centered down here, then you're an animal or an insect or a plant, basically. That is, there are higher aspects to these two centers, no doubt, but if your consciousness is allocated to them, that's where you'll find animals and so forth, affixed to that kind of level. You know, they're so attached to earth that that's all they eat all day. You watch the horse that stands all day in the pasture and eats. So does a cow. I mean, that's its life, eating the green. It eats the green, as we say in Pidgin here. So that's not much of a life, you see. So it's very attached to earth only. If you were a Ramana Maharshi and you could get a cow's attention, then you might have some potential there for actually lifting that soul that is identifying with the cow out of its cow desire for grass, you see, out of its cow station. Any way you could, even if you had to cow it, you see. You just lift it out so it would be born again in a higher station. Anyway, these are a little bit more esoteric teachings, and they're not of a very high level, but there are many beings in both Buddhism and Hinduism who talk about transmigration of species from plant to insect to animal, finally to human. So it's a consideration to keep aware of. This is, of course, at the navel or solar plexus. What I said, it has so much to do with our ancestor. Even here physically, you could see the symbols for that. The fetus is there, for instance, right in between these two centers, and very connected with both. And food is digested there, and water, so forth. And so that third center is very powerful as far as its attraction to people. Vital energy is often associated here, isn't it? If you get hit here, you lose your vital energy real quick, so you can't breathe. So many important things are going on right there, and all of them have to do, to the awakened seer, with the transmigration process, rebirth. And anything that goes beyond that center has to do with freedom. Awaken the heart center, most likely not coming back again to rebirth, unless you have some sort of reason to do so, with Prakasha Shakti's permission see, and company, right? Don't forget to assign tamas, rajas, and sattva to these centers, see, basically speaking. Veiled, everything's veiled, then everything's distorted, right? And then everything is all of a sudden getting revealed. So you can see how it all works. And pretty soon pure Shakti happens. At pure Shakti, or pure sattva, you have the Anahata, air and Isha. Isha is the chosen one. It's like the chosen ideal of being. So when you get a mantra from a guru in our tradition, they'd say, what's your Ishtam? It's like saying, who's your daddy? Or in Tantra it'd be, who's your mommy? See? So basically, Isha means, there's a word in Sanskrit, antaryami, beautiful word that I used to hear one of the older Western Vedantists who was teaching Vedanta in Honolulu use it in almost every lecture. Antaryami is the inner ruler, immortal, seated in the heart. Inner ruler, immortal, seated in the heart. See? So that's the Ishtam. And you meditate on that, and you envision that, and your eyes roll down the nose. It doesn't stop at the nose. Some silly, queer way of saying it or thinking. It goes down, eyes roll down to the heart chakra. See, and then you're completely entranced by the vision of your Ishtam there. This is how you should envision meditation. Still, tripod stance, hands fixed, breath balanced, focusing deep upon the antaryami within your own heart. And counting for all of these petals, letters, and sounds that you will hear there in the heart. They say basically, it's also called anahata, right? But anahata also means heart. So, very important then to awaken Kundalini to this level, because that's when real transformation of mind starts to occur. Mind and heart being one thing, as we were saying. Lots to say about it, and of course that's why all of a sudden I stopped speaking, because I wonder which way to go, all the things you can actually introduce in this level. But we're going through this in the 5 minutes or so remaining in our first half, and I wanted to take it up, literally and figuratively. So here you come after that to the Vishuddha chakra. That's throat. Has to do with ether. So see how it's earth, water, fire, air, and ether. You see, it's almost a kind of mystical signal to you that this is how the 5 elements unfold in reverse. Is that ether is subtlemost, air is next, fire is next, water, and then earth. And it's also very much aligned with the 5 koshas. Annamaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, and so forth. This is how everything is stepping down or stepping out, we would say, until on earth you would have the actual physical representations of fire, water, air, and ether on earth. You'd see them as the 5 elements. But before that, they were at a higher level. They were almost thoughts in God's mind, or in Mother's mind. And so there you'll find your dreams, you see. You'll find yourself breathing in a dream, or running hard and breathing. You'll find yourself getting burnt or cooking food over a fire in your dreams, and so forth and so on. So all of these elements and the senses with which to experience them, whether it's good or bad, that is painful or pleasurable, are inside of you at a very high level in their origin. If Christ had had more time with his 16 apostles, then he would have been fleshing this out. The kingdoms of heaven are within you, and so forth. He would have been fleshing that out. In the beginning is the Word with God. He would have been explaining that in terms of people's life, and that man doesn't live by bread alone, and that you can't just live on a river and eat fish and have a wife and a hut and be happy. That's called worldly life, but you have to become a fisher of men. You have to get a spiritual life and then become a fisher of men. All of this is what he would have spent time doing if he had had the attention span of these people for long enough, in an ideal setting. But as you know, because the Pharisees and the Romans were both in cahoots, as it were, there, he didn't have that kind of time on his hands. And probably one of the reasons why he disappeared for a while. We didn't know where he went, but we think he went to India. Vishuddha is then throat, you see. 16 letters, 16 sounds, 16 prana shaktis at work there. That will be more information for a retreat we could give on this. We could call it examining, closely examining the 6 chakras. I say 6 because really they don't call this a chakra, a center, because it's too formless and infinite. But however you want to call it, when you get to the third eye, Shambhu. Well, I didn't say Sadashiva here at the Vishuddha. When the throat is Sadashiva, that means a very high aspect of Lord Shiva. So this is where you begin to have Mother introducing you to Shiva, because she's meeting Shiva there. That is, she's re-meeting him. She wants to meet him at this level, Sahasrara. So she begins to have you intimate the presence of Shiva here, and actually hear the wisdom of Shiva here, and actually have a vision of him here. See, so Shiva's coming into the picture that way, until Shiva and Shakti become Parama Shiva and Parashakti at the very highest level. They merge. This is what she wants. She wants this for every person. She does it through all beings. In every 24 hours of their life she's doing this, and they're not aware of it. That soul who gets the Prakasha Shakti and begins to have her lead him or her in this process will awaken to higher levels of their consciousness and have these experiences that are superlative and which are really inexplicable by any other way except Dharma and Tantra and Kundalini Yoga. Here, we must pause. We'll finish this chart up in the second half, so please stay with us. Om, and thank you for your kind attention. you have returned with us if you're still watching, and if you are still watching, that means that you've been attracted by Mother Kali and you want to meet her. Of course, you can look back on the first half or the second half if you do miss them on our website, and also via Advaita Academy, which we always like to try and remember to give our gratitude to. As Hawaii we say, mahalo nui loa. Thank you very much for providing camera and technical assistance for making these live streamings possible in people's homes, which is, according to us, particularly myself, the second best way of receiving these teachings. To be on hand in the same room as they are coming out straight from Mother Kali, as we like to say, the consciousness participating and the consciousness transmitting is a very powerful thing and goes the deepest and the quickest to the point, to the issue. That point, you might say, is this point, which is where we ended up at the Agya Chakra for the break. At that point I was talking about Jesus being able to speak these kinds of teachings in his own language to his 16 apostles, and I made a misspeak there. I meant 12, of course, although I think he probably did have more than 12 direct apostles if you count the women who were Shaktis, probably forms of Mother Kali right there with him. But whatever the case may be, excuse the misspeak and just know that I was really thinking about Sri Ramakrishna's 16 apostles, but should have been saying Jesus' 12 main apostles. And of course, if thine eye be single was Jesus' main way of describing that third eye chakra, Agya chakra. It's an interesting word, and I've heard it interpreted by different teachers in different ways, but I kind of like the Agya means Gya means Jnanam, or wisdom, and Agya means no wisdom. So that could be a horrible thing to think of for somebody who's attached to wisdom, but that's the point. You have to go to the truth that's beyond wisdom. Sri Krishna says that in the Gita. And that's precisely what you do when you graduate the third eye into the Sahasrara chakra. There's a great Shiva Granthi here. It's a Rudra Granthi, it's called, and very difficult for most souls to make that kind of grade, total absorption into full enlightenment. They have to have a very strong impetus to do so, and maybe all of their work in the other realms of Mother Kali being completely over or done with, and they want to merge finally. Merging is something that's very important in yoga and in Tantra and in Vedanta, the samadhis and so forth that they talk about there. But then everyone will merge. It's just a matter of how many lifetimes or how many yugas souls are attached to the form. And according to the scriptures, that is, of course, the qualified non-dualistic scriptures, because the non-dual scriptures really don't take up this fantasy of rebirth, this dream. They stay pretty much to the point, this point again. But for the other scriptures, they're talking many times about people having lifetimes after lifetimes, maybe even by the thousands, because of course we're not discounting the 4,320,000,000 year long evolutionary theory. It happens, we agree, but it happens only on a physical level. What's not being accounted for is time on other levels, like time in your dream state, or the timelessness of deep sleep, or the time that happens in different kingdoms of heaven within. My Father's mansion has many chambers, and there's a different clock on each wall in each one of those chambers to measure time with. And in fact, we're talking now to the matriarch of all time when we say Kali, aren't we? Which comes from that Sanskrit word Kala. And Shiva is also named Kala. So these are the masters and the Lord and Mother of the universe, master and mistress of time. So in that regard then, this merging I was just talking about, this can be a one lifetime affair for beings who are capable, apt, willing to undergo the work, the methods, or candidates for grace. There are many ways in which a person can be absorbed and merged into higher consciousness. Just like you are every night in your own deep sleep state. Beautiful state, actually, when you're more aware. If Prakasha Shakti were to be with you when you went into deep sleep, then you'll have a whole different experience of deep sleep than you do behind the curtain of nescience, which runs between these chakras. Curtain of nescience is a teaching that's very important too in our tradition. And it's very thick below the heart chakra and thins as it gets up toward the third eye chakra. But it is there and keeps beings from seeing who they are and probably where they are in any given lifetime. And maybe even puts them into question in the denser regions of it, of what they are. That is, they're beginning to think that they're the body in these lower chakras, which, God forbid. In the Indian tradition, they would say, God forbid that kind of ignorance. You should always know that you're the eternal soul, birthless and deathless, and that the body is just an add-on or a put-on or an assumption that you would associate with should you find yourself in the basement of the Father's mansion, the lower floors, see, where it's colder, and you have to look for the sun for heat. But in the higher levels, you look to the sun of your own wisdom for this life-giving heat. And this is the sun of all wisdom right here. The third eye is the wisdom sun. It's even spoken that way in Taoism and so forth. The white dove ascending and the wisdom sun, and very, very different titles that you'll hear in different traditions for this. If thine eye be single, and the Jnana Chakshu, Sri Krishna told to Arjuna, and of course Agya Chakra. So Agya, no wisdom anymore, sort of, you might say. It's just you're heading toward the Sahasrara. So here you would find Shambhu, which is the highest name for Shiva. I mean, in some systems you'll find Sadashiva is the highest. And then in this particular system they put Shambhu, name for Lord Shiva. Anyway, as I was saying, you're being introduced to Lord Shiva, your own Shiva nature, you might say, by Mother Shakti. She rises to meet him. She wants to share him with you. I mean, if you want to just look at Shiva really quick, here, give me a moment to find that, and you can hear things like, Shiva is synonymous with Brahman and represents Kula, the aspiring family guided by live spiritual tradition. I think this is like basic to Tantra, is that you must be in a spiritual family, and your parents should have gotten the teachings from a guru, and they should be passing it on to you. This is the Kula Guru system at its best. It deteriorated over time in Tantra. We're trying to bring it back, actually, and we're trying to do it in the materialistic West, trying to convince people to put some of these wisdom charts, these Dharma art, on your wall, you see, and show it to your children before meals, and chant the sanctifying mantra over the food, and use your energy for higher purposes. We're trying to convince parents and future parents here in the West to actually introduce this into their life. It would just be bringing spirituality into their life, not just intellectualism and not just artistic endeavor. Remember Swami Sheshanandaji, my teacher, used to say sometimes from the podium, do not teach your children self-expression, teach them self-discipline. Because self-expression in a materialistic society produces money and art and ego. That's what people are doing self-expression for. They want something out of it. But listen, to self-expression to a true artist or to a true workman would just be being satisfied with the work, but not the fruits. Wouldn't it? Is that how Krishna puts it in the Gita? Oh, I think I'll just do this, not for any particular reason at all, and certainly not for any gain, and just see how it comes out, just for the marvel of doing it. The doing. Shiva is doing. Shakti is doing through us. But we're missing them as we do the thing. We create the thing, or we put our name on it. Discover some constellation in space and name it after your wife or something. But she's gone and divorced you 10 years later. So every time you look up, you're unhappy. See? It's all about ego. So, that's why I can just hear any teaching from Tantra or Vedanta or Yoga, and it sets me off like this. Because I very much desire to see people take what Vivekananda brought us in 1893. There's been no one on the scene in the Kali Yuga veiled of spirituality like Swami Vivekananda. That is, you could say, well, what about his master Ramakrishna? But he wasn't suited to travel, you see, and to take it places. Swamiji was strong physically, and he was able to take it places, and he did. He jumped the world. He jumped the ocean like Hanuman did for Sri Ram. And in Hanuman and Ram's case, it was to find Sita. But in Ramakrishna and Vivekananda's case, it was to deliver Sita to us. That is, he was bringing the teachings of Shakti to us. That's Sita Upanishad. We studied it earlier this year in Seattle at a retreat, the Sita Upanishad. So anyway, when I hear about the Kula Guru system or a teaching like that, he represents that station. People think maybe Shiva's transcendent. Well, that's one aspect of him, just like Kali has her transcendent aspect. But if you want to see Shiva, if you want to meet him on the level that you could meet him, then you would meet him in an aspiring family, in the atmosphere of an aspiring family who is in possession of the Dharma, and whose every word was about Dharma. It wouldn't be fighting or cussing or arguing about this and that or hating each other and so forth. There would be love in the family, and there would be helping each other along the spiritual path mainly, but in life too. And what can you do to help anybody if you didn't have these teachings on hand? What could you tell them? Oh, it'll be all right. You're not very effective, but with these Dharma teachings, you would be. You give them the ultimate answer. So there's one thing, Shiva is Niskala too, the subtle backdrop underlying everything. And that's why he can be so effective when she introduces you to him. He's taught, that alone. And Purna Hanta, I in fullness. He and Kali represent I in fullness. That is, what they teach is about the innate perfection of your soul, that there's nothing ever missing from you. You have it all. You are that. I am that, Tatvamasi. It's one of the great Mahavakyas of India. There are 4 of them. Shiva is indeterminate state, alinga, from which arises all vibration, spandas, which then manifest as principles, tattvas, amidst which Shakti sports in time, kala, as the play of consciousness. There you have in one sentence the Tantric philosophy in a nutshell, as it were, as far as Shiva and Shakti are concerned. And it lists 4 of the 6 ways of attaining Brahman there. You know, that chart, we've had it before, 6 ways of attaining Brahmagyan. Well, that pretty much summates it right there down into 4. Basically, you have alinga, unmanifested, and from that unmanifested state, you call it wisdom in potential, because that's Shiva, wisdom in potential, but Shakti has to come along and take that wisdom and put it into the worlds. Well, there has to be worlds first to do that, and beings who need that wisdom, so that's where you go from alinga to vibrations. These worlds of name and form are based in vibration, aren't they? Certainly this one is. And we can measure different levels of vibrations, but when we try and measure the vibration of the mind, we fall back. Our instruments won't measure it, you see. When I was in New York in the 70s, they tried to hook me up and measure because I was a meditator. So Alexix and I went to this place and they tried to attach things to us and measure our mental vibrations. Okay, meditate now. Nothing's happening. You see, they couldn't see it on their... Now they're taking you to hospitals and measuring your deep sleep state overnight. See what they're... But they'll never find consciousness and probably won't even find its intermediate realms of vibration. But my point here is that spandas are Shaivism's way of telling you about the kingdoms of heaven within. There are spandas, vibrating spheres within you, and they're just exactly like what Christ called the kingdoms of heaven within you. And up to the kingdom of heaven within you, which would be no form, alinga, right? Alinga means just no form. There's no sign anymore. If there's a form, it's linga, you see. But alinga means beyond form. Sort of like saying nirguna and saguna in Vedanta, isn't it? So linga and alinga. That is alinga and linga. So from alinga come these vibrations. It's like saying in the beginning was the world and word, and then the word was with God. So a vibration comes out. And it turns into what? Tattvas, principles. Cosmic mind, intellect, mind, ego, thought, subtle senses, subtle elements, gross senses, gross elements. Those are 24 cosmic principles. They're the great principles. Nobody can deny them. It's just that nobody ever counted them up until Kapila came along. Did his homework for us. Early India, right? Oh, well, here's basically what your universes are made of. Someone could say kingdoms of heaven within, but what are those made of? Well, pretty much what's all around you here, only in a subtle form. And then beyond the subtle form, there's the causal form, which is formless. Everything marches out of formlessness to subtle form, and then finally to gross form, and back. And actually that's what you do every 24 hours in your waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state. And you're not getting the clue yet, you see? That's how she does it too, only over 4,320,000,000 years, called yugas. Because this guy, Lord Brahma here, you see, one of his days is that long. And one of his nights then is also that long again. You see. So his lifetime must be immensely long, you see, timeless. So after the tattvas, then Shakti sports in time. Time will come along and things will happen, you see. That's why we say maybe space has to be considered first in order for time to happen, right? To roll along. So as far as we're considering the traditional Tantra, that's kind of the way they think. But the fact is that they thought, and they thought very deeply, and then they corroborated it with their intelligence, and then they found their intelligence in Mother Kali. Who would you ask about time if not Kali? And where would you go to transcend it if not with her? So these are just a few things I wanted to mention about Shambhu, about Shiva, that you start encountering him that way in a very philosophical and intellectual sense, yes, but it begins to get beyond the intellect when it gets beyond the Vishuddha. In a Vishuddha center, it's already rarefied intellect. You're not hearing morals and ethics and science and aparavidya, math, so forth. You're beginning to hear Dharma. And then all of a sudden you're beginning to rise into a state where these spandas, or these vibrations, are at a very rarefied state. You'll find that a word can put you into a semi-conscious state. That is a spiritual state. A word can just hit you, strike you, or a mantra can strike you, or a teaching or a class can strike you. If who is present? Prakasha Shakti is present. Don't forget what we just learned in the first part of the, connect it all. Keep it all connected. Keep it all right there. Everything you're learning in 3 hours. Yes, I see. Let the synapses go off and connect, you see, and take that home with you. And into your eternal home too. So I wanted to make this important diversion to some of the teachings of Shiva and Shakti on this chart. If you go beyond Agni Chakra, then you have this Sahasrara. And we say sometimes I don't even call it a center or a chakra because it's just infinite. In fact, I think Sri Ramakrishna referred to it once when they told him, "You're a great master." He said, "Sorry, I don't relate to that word." He didn't like guru, he didn't like father, and he didn't like master as words. So, why? He says, because if you say that I'm a great master, it's sort of infers that I know everything. But I've been to this center before, and knowledge is infinite. In fact, knowledge is even infinite down here. Divine Mother Kali got on my tongue and sat there and spoke through me, you see. And there was no end to it. I couldn't see any end to what she had to tell me, or to tell you through me, you see. And then it was just that when I got here, I became silent. So I went to the mountain, my cave, and became Shambhu and became silent. And then finally I merged, see. So there's no such thing as great master. See, don't call me that. It infers that there's an end. But this is Sahasrara, this is thousand-petaled, and thousand just means it's a number. It means hundreds and thousands. You can say there's a nerve running through your arm, and inside of that there's 100,000 nerves, and inside of each of those 100,000 nerves are another 10 million. It's a quote right out of the Upanishad. You're going in to the nadis, see, inwards, to meet Mother Kali. I mean, if you wanted to sing it, you would say, Kali, Kali Borashana, Kali, Kali Borashana, Karapada Jan, Amamrita Pan, Karapada Jan, Amamrita Pan, Jadi hate tran take vashana, Kali, Kali Borashana, Kali, Kali Borashana. Means, oh blissful self, caught in mundane diversions and vain pursuits. In these lower chakras, utter the sweet and powerful name of Kali, the Divine Mother of this infinite universe. Grasp the non-dual knowledge of her wisdom feet. See? And with the strength of your subtle insight, meditate deeply upon her all-encompassing, all-pervasive presence, capital P. At that auspicious moment, when the desire for liberation arises within you, imbibe the nectar of Mother's timeless awareness and taste immortality. So, this is a translation that both Lex Sixon and I myself worked on together. He came to him with a version. He said, pretty good, just make a change there, and what do you think about this? And went back and did another version, came back. And so, with the help of that great master of English and of spiritual practices and religions, I got that kind of aid and put together this beautiful translation for this Kali Bol Rashana. Utter this name of Kali and reach highest liberation. So in every song you feel, they're called Kali Kirtan sometimes, or Kali Sangeet, the songs of Mother Kali. On these special nights, they'll get together like in new moon, densest darkness at night with no moon, or sometimes on Kali Puja, and sing these songs together outside next to the sacred river. I've been there, and it's beautiful. It says the most mystical experience you'd ever want to have. And these songs are coming out from right there on the ground of sacred ground of India that have been sung for hundreds and thousands of years, and which are the treasure house of devotional wisdom yoga, not just devotional yoga like some devotion that makes me sing and dance, but some devotional wisdom yoga that shows me the secret of my own consciousness and her dwelling inside of it all. So we've met Mother Kali effectively through music in that way. We started off the series 4 weeks ago. We said we'll meet her through words, we'll meet her through music, and we'll meet her through philosophy. Well, here's the philosophy, there's the music, and there's the words. What are you waiting for? Otherwise, there's another song. Mother Kali is flying mind kites in the bazaar of mundane human existence. See, that was one of Lex's, Lex Hickson's. See, Mother Kali is flying mind kites in the bazaar of mundane human existence. So there's just people who are bound, you see, by strings, and their kite is limited to where it can fly. See? The mundane, the bizarre, mundane things, you see, purchases, and that's what fascinates people by going to India. They say, oh, let's go to the marketplace. But if you go to the Kali temple, or go to the marketplace, purchase some flowers, have the priest bless it, and then go to the Kali temple. Everything from Mother, right? Everything from Mother. Well, I think we've effectively finished this, except maybe let's look at this last quote at the bottom by Sri Ramakrishna. After great effort and spiritual practice, the Kundalini is awakened. At that time, the mind of the aspirant is withdrawn from the three lower centers. Bye-bye. He feels the first awakening of divine consciousness and sees light. That's at the heart chakra. In mute wonder, he sees that radiance and cries, "What is this? What is this?" You've never seen anything like that in the realm of the three chakras. You've seen marvels there, mysteries untold really, but not the light that reveals them. Prakasha Shakti. He's finally seeing that very light that's doing the revealing, not just the effect of it. And then he's transported in ecstasy. That's how Lex Hickson put it. He was transported in ecstasy. I like that, those three words. See? Some points, though, that we didn't consider before we move on. The chakras are vortexes of vital consciousness force called prana shakti. 2. The nadis are subtle nerve channels along which flows the psychic prana, pranika. So I did make a chart for that. I didn't think to bring it today, but you might have seen it took me a long time to draw all the lines, hundreds of them that were coming from the chakras and transcending the different levels. That's nadas and rebirth, is that chart that I made called nadas. So they're talking about not just the centers, but lots of nerves. You can see the sushumna going up the middle, right? That's the central channel, leads to the sahasrara. So that's the main of the three channels. And then the Ida and the Pingala on either side, see, that are supposed to go around it like this, this way they envision it when they see it. So these are the three main rivers leading to the ocean of Brahman, you say. One, female and male. And Shiva and Shakti, sometimes you can't even tell the difference because they're circling up that Sushumna. But she's got to arise, that energy has to rise up that Sushumna. And there are signs of that. We looked at it last week on a chart. There are 6 signs. I'm sure you could all recount them from your memory right now to me. One of them, I got an email from Hungary a couple days ago saying, "Oh, I like that one about newborn power. I feel that too sometimes. I'm practicing spiritual life. There, you feel a newborn power." So I took that very message and I wrote to another young man, an American, said, "Yes, you must have a newborn power." Like on that chart on Sunday, you see. And feel that. Let it elevate you. Let it transport you to higher consciousness and higher awareness. What have you got to lose? Except your ego and possessions, money, politics, nightmares. You lose the good and bad and you take up the best. And Swami Vivekananda used to say that, from good to better to best. So you might as well take these 3 like Triputis and climb that ladder. Call them the Ida, the Pingala, and the Sushumna. If you want to put that in Western terms, it's the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. I don't know if all 3 of them made the trip. I'm not sure, but I forgot my high school history, but the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, right? These 3 rivers sailing across the ocean, you see. So the spiritual significance to everything. And Sri Ramakrishna would have gone into samadhi if he heard me say that just now, if he was in the room. Everything has a spiritual significance. So chakras and nadis are two words you have to put into your vocabulary if you're interested in Mother Kali and Kundalini. Chakras and nadis. Also, the nadis are not physical nerves, which I warned about early. And some of the teachers that taught Kundalini yoga that came in the 60s to the West were not very specific about this and were there for money and other things and power. So unfortunately, we have to reclaim Kundalini yoga back from some of that and reinvest it with the wisdom that was brought to us 70 years before that. In the case of Swami Vivekananda, coming to the Chicago Parliament of Religions and being here for a couple of years, making sure that was corrected. He's the one. So nadis are not physical nerves, but yoga nadis that cannot be detected by the eye. No man has seen God with his eye, then you can be real sure that no man has seen the nadis with his physical eye either. And they probably tried with a scalpel, and since they didn't succeed, concluded that they don't exist. Good luck with that. The Sahasrara is not a chakra. Well, here's kind of support for the point I made about there being only 6, right? But the teachings say the Sahasrara is not a chakra, but an infinite realm where all rests in a causal state. You know, it would be beyond a causal state, but that's the only word I could find in English. You know, alinga again. You know, it's formless. It's beyond boundaries. So you have to read into some of this, what you intuit by words like this. You know, it's like being transported again. You feel like a balloon being filled with helium. Your lungs have to feel like when you take a breath of spiritual air that you almost leave your seat. You know, actually, about spurious teachers that came in the 60s talking about levitating, that's baloney. The real levitation is mental levitation, intellectual levitation, spiritual levitation. You feel like you're going off your seat. And have a good meditation where you finally have to say, I just have to open my eyes to see if I'm on the ceiling. See? Because you feel like you've hit the ceiling and you're pressing against an envelope, and somewhere inside of you, being in a physical body, in a physical room, in a physical world, you're saying, I can't go any higher than the ceiling. So you finally open your eyes and find you're right there, you see. But you have gotten aboard with Prakasha Shakti, and she's taken you up the chakras, and you do this in deep sleep and dream too. That is, dream and deep sleep, rather. Keep your third eye open now. Open it up and watch what happens, or tear her hand away and get a glimpse of that light, the revealer. And ride with her. See? Garuda, get on the great Garuda bird. Takes Vishnu to higher realms and back down to lower realms when he wants to go. That's what vision's all about. If you get a vision of Lord Vishnu or Krishna, he's taken this very prana here, they're talking about here, right? This pranika, and he's used it as Garuda, and he's now coming down, out, as it were, to you, to give you that vision in your dream state, your higher dream state. It's where these visions will occur. It's a visionary state of consciousness. This happens right between dreaming and deep sleep. Deep sleep, it won't do you any good to have a vision. Nothing there but seeds. But if you come out of that and you're aware, you come back into the higher dreaming state, that's where you have the visions of God. That's where you can see God with form. That's where Paul, along the road to Damascus, would have seen Christ, you see, coming from that level of consciousness. No one else saw him. The deities are forms of universal consciousness which manifest in the chakras. And I like this teaching and this chart very much for that very reason, because just like this quote said that you had formless state, spandas of vibrating worlds, tattvas that fill them, principles, and time passing. then you look over here and you get this idea that there are lotuses, there are nerves leading to them, subtle nerves, there's a prana or prana shakti flowing along them, and there are deities that you meet in this, at these different levels of consciousness. And I just mentioned these visions. Well, there you are. You'll see these beings, and if you're not very high, you'll see your ancestors. You'll see your dead grandmother, so-called dead. She never died because she was never born. She just came and then disappeared back into one of these centers. This is one way of saying this. The Kundalini system has a way of offering how this happens, but if you don't have some sort of ability to envision inside, then this won't make any sense to you. If you're just so attached to the outside only, then it's rubbish. See, it just doesn't relate. So those people who think it's rubbish, one day they'll have a spiritual experience in a dream, or something amazing will happen to them, or they'll get a death, they call that illness. You see it? Being threatened with death. You see, and all of a sudden that will jar awake their samskaras and to remember who they truly are and why they came here. Well, it's a little late now, but better get on my horse here. Better get on my high horse. Start trotting. Got a lot of ground to cover before my body passes. You see, a lot of ground to recover. Not just cover, but recover. Finally, each chakra has a certain number of petals that hold letters and their innate powers. Well, think about Lord Brahma's 1,000-petaled lotus, and that each petal is a world. That's one of the best ways I like to think about this. 1,000, of course, is a limited number, so you have to think that there are many more than that, but 1,000-petaled lotus, Sahasrara, where that comes out of the, remember the first chart we had 4 weeks ago? Lotus comes out of the navel of Vishnu, see, and opens up, and there's Lord Brahma sitting on it. Vishnu's sitting on the bed of snakes, Ananta, and that bed of snakes is resting in Ekarnava, the waters of existence. Remember that chart? So when that lotus opens up at the beginning of an age, or a beginning of another Manvantara or Mahayuga, whatever the case may be, then Lord Brahma is sitting there. Yes, it's symbolic. It's a good way of envisioning it. Mother Kali would be seeing it wholly different, I'm sure, but when Lord Brahma comes, then he'll have this lotus, and he'll know that these are the seeds for all the worlds around him. And then from then, all that cosmic mind has to do and the Trinity has to do is spill into existence. And that's where something like this would be helpful. From formlessness comes vibration. The whole secret is vibration. If nothing's vibrating, there's no form. Anytime a form appears, there's a vibration. Problem with vibration is that it can be balanced, it can be erratic, and it can be dull. You know what I'm talking about? So flip back. It can be covered, it can be distorted, or it can be revealed. And that's the gunas kicking into operation right away. Right away. The minute any form even suggests appearing, the gunas are there. What'd you say? Is there something to cover here? See, I'm the best distorter. Let me at it, you see. So, and from spondis, then the tattvas. Lord Brahma will have words for the tattvas. His seed state. This is deep sleep, you know. So say a word and that thing will become manifest in time. And that's what time is afterwards. The philosophy or the philosophies of India are superlative. They're incomparable. India is the mother of all religions, and all those ideas came out of her before she was even called India, before she was even called Bharat, the eternal. She was called Kali. So let's meet our mother in as many ways and on how many levels we can. Let's see if we can open up and see her at work in all of this, and then see her at rest here. in the remaining half hour then, as if we haven't gotten deep enough, and we have to come down a little bit maybe for that, let's take a look at what's offered next, how we would meet Mother Kali in terms of the goddess herself. And that would be through meditation. Now this is a tantric chart that I was able to craft out of readings in the Devi Gita. Yes, there is a Gita, another Gita yet, besides Bhagavad and Uddhava, but the Devi Gita. See? And there she is, meditating on a lotus, just like we talked about there. So, teachings from the Devi Gita, which is a little section of that huge voluminous work called the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, that it's one of the two authentic and authoritative mother scriptures in the whole world. The two came out of India. So in India they've had this cognizance of and commerce with Divine Mother Shakti. I mean, in India, if you talk about Brahman, you don't talk. You cannot speak about it. You can only speak around it or infer it. Like you could say, oh, see the smoke on yonder hill, then you have to infer fire's there, right? You can't see the fire. So in that way, if there's all this smoke and mirrors, Maya and so forth, then there has to be a fire that's burning in it. And that's her. That's this fire of Shakti. You call it fire right there at the heart chakra, Agni, right? All the forms of fire. Thought is a form of fire. The power that digests your food is a type of fire. Not just out here in a billion suns in the night sky, but there are subtler forms of fire. And that prana shakti, which is a kind of fire, fed by good food and the right kinds of exercises that sublimate your energy, then you'll find Agni right there in your own heart. That's the fire. And finally the fire of Shambhu, see, fire of Sadashiva. Non-dual wisdom that cuts away everything. You're on your road to meeting Mother Kali. It's just meeting with her, merging in her. It's just two simple words, which was the name of the first book our founder wrote, Coming Home. It's coming home. Blackness is one with black. There's a song in India that says about bumblebees, or black bumblebees are circling around her black form, merging in her black hair. Her black hair, which is this prolonged circular lightning of full enlightenment, as I said in the first half, in Lexixon's poem. So basically, these bees are loving to merge in her black hair and come out again. They only come out because it's blissful to merge back in. Other souls come out and get lost, if they even know where they've been, see. But those souls are superlative souls, are always having that play, that sportive play of separating and merging, just like waves into an ocean, which are never separate from the ocean. They just rise and fall out of that very self-same ocean. All these metaphors are very helpful in engendering a sense of merging in us. See, like these individualized souls, apparently individualized souls, have to take that helium balloon breath, you see, of aspiration that wants to merge. And that's how you would increase your devotion to Mother Kali. Every breath would have to be filled with that kind of aspiration. But particularly when you do it in meditation with the mantra, you would want to do that. That's the time when you have chance. When you're out in activity, not much of a good chance. You just keep her in mind, you see. But when you sit for formal meditation, formal practice, and reading about her and studying the scriptures, which are her wisdom, then this is where the chance that you really want to say, I'm meeting Mother Kali right now. You don't want to read anything like Srimad Devi Bhagavatam or this Devi Gita and just say, oh, I'm just having an hour of reading right now. Oh, you see, you'll just sit down and relax. Not like that. And then you've belied the whole purpose for seeking her in the first place. And food too, then would be the same way. You know, sometimes we sing that, Mono Boli Bhajakali. Imagine that all food you eat, you see, is being taken in by her, and all sounds you hear are her mantras and so forth. We sang that a couple weeks ago. Well, let's look at this first quote out of this Devi Gita. Throughout life, everything is to be done in the light of my great Sri Lekha mantra, whose gifts are the Guru and all the blessings which naturally come to my devotees. Nothing at all at any time is attainable to the one who worships the Devi. Sri Lekha mantra basically is Hrim. Ha-ra-im, right? We looked at that last week on that chart that took apart Om and Hrim. Ha-ra-im. The M, of course, was the dissolution at the end of the whole process. And the Ha-ra-I had to do with the cosmic tattvas, or principles. The outer ones, the inner ones, and then transcendent, 3 worlds. So this is her whole secret in a way, is it's all in a word, in a very powerful word. She would give this word to Lord Brahma, before he started the process. Well, here's the powerful word, in case you've forgotten. And if you haven't forgotten, I give you permission to use it now. It's time, see. And so the word was spoken. See. Well, this is a process of these points of meditation on the goddess. I think we have just enough time to undergo it. First, she wants you to consider this, where is it? 1,000-petaled lotus, you see. I was telling that to someone recently, and just even today mentioned it, is that you should have the non-dual truth first. It's not that you can understand it, but everyone should hear it first. That's Ramakrishna's opinion, and he told that to Swami Vivekananda. Here's the non-dual truth, it's simple, all is Brahman kind of thing, you see. Now, take that inside, knowing that to be the truth, now go on to the processes outside. Because if you don't have that given to you first, you go on with the processes outside, and it's a search for something that you may never find for lifetimes, and you don't have an inkling of. You may get totally lost in that search for lifetimes, because nobody told you the truth, see, at the beginning. Just the very hearing of that truth sets something off in you, and your samskaras has already begun to align you with Mother Kali. Any vibrations that auspicious lifetime she's talking about, that comes about, then in that lifetime you will tuck in all the corners of the blanket, the bed, you see. There's a few corners you haven't tucked in yet, see. Is how they explain that. So meditate on this 1,000-petaled lotus. Then she says, remember and envision your guru. I'm Guru Bhyo Namaha. I'm Paramaguru Bhyo Namaha. I'm Parapara-Guru Bhyo Namaha. All tiers or levels of the guru you salute inside of your mind. You want to do it physically, you can. Sometimes I see my students at retreat in the morning when we're meditating. My eyes are open. I see them do this at the very beginning. They're actually physically enacting it. But it's, I'm Guru Bhyo Namaha, your guru. I'm Paramaguru Bhyo Namaha, your guru's guru. I'm Parapara-Guru Bhyo Namaha, your guru's guru's guru, right? You remember these beings, and then your meditation is launched. And you will be transported into ecstasy. But not starting out that way. The guru says, you didn't even think of me. All the gurus inside get insulted, as it were. See? What an unconscious rascal. I gave him all that help back on earth, and not even going to remember me for it. In fact, probably betray me down the line. Give him a few years or a few months. So after that, meditate on my form in the fire of Kundalini in the Muladhara. All right, well, talk about falling off a skyscraper. good thing you envisioned your guru, right? And saluted him, because you have to go from here to here, you see. Let's see. Well, first meditate on your crown chakra. Okay. Okay, now meditate on the base of your spine. See that? Like the ant falling off the tree. A little bit of dust comes up. So she's not just jerking you back down there. She's saying, here's the truth. There's your guru. Now let's take care of all these untucked corners of the bed. Let's tuck them all in from the root chakra on up. And if you've studied the chakras and you know what they're about basically, and what they intimate, and the teachings around them, and the deities associated with them, and the lands they cover, and the vibrations of them, and so forth, if you've been schooled in this way by your teacher, then all of this is going to be inward ascension of a rather swift and easy type, you see. No barriers in the way of that. Then she wants you to contemplate the Hrileka mantra in tandem with the chakras. So, Hrim. You see, sometimes you see the chakras have these letters in them. See, so you might say in the heart chakra, you might see that Aim right there. See, or Hrim. These chakras have different seeds associated specifically with them, and then some other attending or concomitant kinds of seeds around them on their petals. See, so it's like each world has a main word to it, and each of those words have attending syllables or vowels, see, matras, and those make up that world. And the deity who is in that world also has these in his or her possession. So you invoke them with the guru, he'll give them to you, and then you can pass. You can pass or you can't pass. So this is all part of your inner journey, and you have to have internal vision for it. You have to be willing to participate in your own awakening like this. If you get the idea, you might find yourself spending hours this way and open your eyes and say, oh my gosh, I got to get to work late. Sorry, boss. I was meditating on the awakening of my kundalini. What? Never mind. Then meditate on the 5 seats of the Devi, all situated under her lotus feet. So I said earlier, grasp her lotus feet would be a good start in meeting her. So there you see, and they're much like this, aren't they? There you see Sadashiva right there, is one of them. Shambhu or Shiva is another. Vishnu is there. Ishvara, whom I put Sri Ramakrishna's picture because he's definitely the Ishvara of this particular age, called the Kali Yuga, by the way. And Lord Brahma, right there. So these are called those Pancha asanas, or the 5 great seats of the Devi. That's when she has her august form resting on them, like pillars of an antaranga. You see, great deities. So you see the trinities there, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, right? Because we haven't done it yet in this any given class, we have to, right? Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Deva Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So she has 5 seats, and 3 of them are the Trinity. Ishvara and Sadashiva would be the other 2. Very important words and names in the Tantric and Kundalini tradition. Then she says, perform concentrated japa and offer the results to me, the Devi. Now, how many steps have there been before you even begin to say your mantra? See? You've considered the truth within you, right? crown chakra. You've considered that. Then you envisioned your Guru and saluted. Then you meditated on the fire of Kundalini lodged in the base of your spine, like as if to invoke her. Then you contemplated her bijam, not just the mantra, but the seed word in it that your Guru gave you. Then you ruminated on the 4 boons. Well, I forgot to include that, didn't I? I skipped through it. So ruminate on the 4 boons. That is basically the 4 fruits of life. You've got a human body and got a desire for freedom and so forth and so on. Good teacher, and a desire to get realized. So those are like 4 boons she's given you. Then you meditate on the 5 seats of the Devi. That is, if you want to sing this song, consider it done. Okay, I invoke the Trinity, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, and also, by the way, salutations to Ishvara and Sadashiva. And then you perform japa of the mantra that your Guru gave you in sacred initiation on a holy day in ceremony. Then you do that for 15 minutes, half hour, longer. So, once the mantra has taken you deep and your mind is balanced, put it down and just concentrate on her. So offer the fruits of everything to her. Perform puja for me with devotion and with all sacred offerings. So we did that on Kali Puja just a couple weeks ago. Friday night, was it? 2 weeks ago, we sat in there and did all of us who were here, except a couple that weren't yet on island, had a beautiful puja to Mother Kali and offered her all flowers and flame, sacred flame and water and food and song, lots of Kali Sangeet. And all felt the power of Mother Kali enter into us. It's like Kali New Year. We're set for the year, you see, having worshipped her in that sacred evening. So, perform puja. Basically, this is for you, not for her. You do it for her, but really it's basically for you because it'll awaken certain things in you. For instance, say if you don't feel like your devotion is very deep and intense to her all the time, puja is a good thing to do. To recall to your mind that the things out there aren't really worthy of your worship. Those are the things you're worshiping with your energy, right? And the 5 senses you're worshiping, and the ego, and so forth. But now you realize puja says, there's something essential, quintessential even, see, inside that I've got to offer everything to. So puja is good for that. Then make offerings to all the other deities in my sacred mandala. So all the gods and goddesses have to be invoked. So you'll do that with a platter of flowers. You see, Om Sarvadeva Devi Swarupaya Shri Ramakrishnaya Namo Namaha. I offered to these flowers to all the deities in the pantheon. May they all be pleased and satisfied with the offering. Then recite my many names and read my Upanishads. A tantric scripture actually telling you to read the Vedic Upanishads. You get the connection here. One of those Upanishads, 108 of them left now, is called the Yoga Kundalini Upanishad. And you take that up and you'll find some really deep teachings about the Devi. And probably put you straight on the path of the goddess, whereas before you're considering to be maybe a nature goddess or some 4-armed form or some mystical thing. Actually, it'll put you straight in touch with the goddess in your own heart. When the Upanishads speak, there's authority behind it. And recite her many names. So go on with the recitation of different names. I sang you a collection of them last week, in fact. I was thinking of this particular set of names. I'll just do a few of them. If I sang 100 or 1,000, we'd be here long past live streaming time. But we used to sing Niranjani Jyoti Shri Jagat Janani Para Prakriti Maha Prakriti Chandika Devi Ambika Devi Trina Guna Tita Om Tarini Bhavani Devi, Mahashakti Devi, Devi Jagadatri Bhuvaneshwari, Brahmavidya Devi, Kali Durga Devi, Saraswati Vakdevi Adya Shakti, Shri Devi Padam, Shri Devi Padam, Shri Devi Padam, Shri Devi Padam. Of several about the wisdom goddess. It says basically, thou art the all-knowing witness and observer of both gross and subtle nature. Thou art the light of consciousness, matriarch of many types of universes. The triple-stranded rope of cosmic ignorance, the gunas, right? Dance in thy hands, and through thy will and compassion, all negativities vanish. You are the essence of all deities and their mother too. O rapt enjoyer of all spiritual moods, O world mother who presides over all beings, may your potent predominance be directed towards us for our highest spiritual benefit. O mother of transformation, whose wisdom word animates and imbues all with generative power, may we, through your incomparable grace, realize the essence of reality. Basically, a freely rendered English translation to those names that were put into verse form. Kali, Durga, Bhavani, Mahashakti, Triguna, transcendent of the gunas and all that. So you can sing this in many different ways. So she says then, sing these names. Then dance joyfully and sing my names. See? So it's sort of like she leaves the dancing and singing, which can be an excuse for just pretentious behavior, you see. A lot of people are dancing, singing with just the ego, see. Oh, look, I put on my best yoga clothes and I'm dancing now. I'm singing one thing over and over again, ad infinitum, ad nauseum. But she's got you singing Kali Kirtan. She's got you considering wisdom. She's got you meditating on your true being before you even set foot into the realms of these practices, if practices they be. This should be like Sri Ramakrishna. You're celebrating her, see. There was not one pretentious bone or thought in his body. There wasn't one movement of the ego in his movements. He was caught up by her, plunged into dance. The description is like a lion dancing, you see, but also like a plume of incense. Oh, that kind of dance that we have very scarcely seen in this world. Then, out of that realm of resultant bhakti, let's call it, comes karma. He says, now feed the holy, the hungry, and the devotees. Now, puts it in a nice order. Feed the holy first. See? Keep them alive and in good shape and well satisfied. See? We want to keep them here. They can give us the teachings. Hungry come next. See, feed the hungry. Hungry are always going to be hungry, but you feed them anyway. It's not like you can make a difference. We're really tired of that phrase now. I want to make a difference. You can't make a difference in Maya. You can only transcend it and then be of real help. See? So give that up. See? Just go and feed because you're feeding yourself. See, it's good for you to do this, not for them. It's the real secret of karma yoga. Is you're not helping others, you're helping yourself. Because yourself and their self are the same self. These keys of Karma Yoga can be found in the Bhagavad Gita in the early chapters. I've also put them into charts with bullet points so that you know what the dynamics of Karma Yoga really are. Finally, and penultimately, perceive youth, the aged, the poor. Oh, I forgot to say, feed the devotees too. They probably will want to wait till the end, but feed them, you see, because great merit comes from feeding the devotees, they say. You want to do that. And we'll do that after class in about 15 minutes here, or actually 5 minutes. So we'll do that after class. We'll have good vegetarian food available for everyone who stays to eat. Then feed youth, food's on my mind. Perceive youth, the aged, the poor, and the public, all as forms of me. That's probably going to be in order too. You see the youth, oh, they're so beautiful, that must be God. Then you see the poor, oh, I feel so bad for them, they must be God. See? And then finally the public, oh man, what a mess. See? Well, I guess I'll feed them too, and I'll also see them as God. It's going to be a practice at that point. This mass collective mental dreaming going on, and this public mind out there, you see. The aged, of course, to be considered in there because they really need your help. So, a lot of my devotees are at the age right now where they are having old mothers and fathers and so forth and are being of service to them. It's very good to do that. Good karma, they say, but again, not for any real purposes of accrual necessarily, but just because it's the thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And there may be some very powerful spiritual realizations come from that kind of karma yoga. Like, for instance, we like the story about Mother Teresa, whom loved Christ all her life and so forth, but she got her first vision of Christ, according to her own words, because we were recording her when she said this. She got her first vision of Christ when she was helping a dying man on the streets of Calcutta. This brown-faced Hindu man looked up at her, and when he looked at her, she said she saw Christ. That was her vision of Christ. So maybe she saw him many other times too in her meditations, but this was a very beautiful story for that. Very powerful things can happen to you when you extend yourself into the realm of karma yoga, particularly after you've prepared yourself for it. I would say the opposite is true. If you haven't prepared yourself, then you make a muck of things in the world. You're part of the problem, as they say, not the solution. You may be well-intentioned either, but it's just acts of what is it?
Stupefaction.
Good acts of stupefaction. Yeah, good acts of stupefaction. Of course, there are bad acts of stupefaction too, and you want to avoid those. But you also don't want to be naive. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, to be spiritual is not to be a fool. Because there are many people who were pretending spirituality, and they were just fools. They were sometimes first-class fools. So in that case, you want to prepare yourself for bhakti and for karma. This is a very good method and phases of practice that she has here listed for you in the Devi Gita. Now, I've made a new English translation of the Devi Gita, which is available, and I put it in that book, Reclaiming Kundalini Yoga. So if you want to have that as your guide, you can look into that, practice this every day. Then that means you can check your notes. I see some people writing it down. Your notes aren't always accurate sometimes. I've seen my students' notes sometime and gone, did I say that? So you have to be very careful receiving the Dharma. Finally, perform all actions in the light of my great Devi mantra. So the whole mantra is to be considered here. You've been given the mother mantra. According to the teachers, the mother mantra will take you through all barriers, through all worlds to the highest. Mother mantra is the only mantra that can do that, they say. That every deity at every level of consciousness will stand aside and let you pass if you have the mother mantra. So if you've received the mother mantra, with those great bijam, or that particular great bijam, especially through a lineage like has appeared to us in this day and age, through Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the great realized soul and devotee of Mother Kali, then that mother mantra is as good as gold. I'd say better. Any other quotes here? We have covered this Devi Gita and its teachings, and just in time as we reach the last few minutes. So here I can just say 5th class of the 6th class series will happen next Sunday, same time, same place here. And we thank the live streaming audience for joining us, and we will go on to our little prasad meal here afterwards and feed the devotees. If we see any poor, aged, or even the public, we'll offer them too, as we always like to do. And we'll meet here next week then for the 5th class on meeting Mother Kali. Om Sato Ma Sadgamoya Tamaso Ma Joitir Gamoya Mrichor Ma Amritam Gamoya Abira Mayedi Rudrayate Dakshinamukam Tenamam Pahinicham Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from lower truth to higher truth. Lead us from the unreal to the real. And lead us from the illusion of death to eternal life. Reach us through and through, O Lord and Mother of the universe, with thy sweet and benign presence. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om Hare Om.